Women Radio 91.7, Nigeria's first and only radio station for women and their families. I am Miracle Phillip, and it's always a delight to get to be here with you as we get to navigate through what conversations are making the rounds across the country. I hope that you're doing well today. I hope you had a great night rest. And as you are going about your daily activities, I hope is, going on well. You're not letting anybody get on your nerves. If there's anything that's happening in your area, feel free to call in on the show and complain and talk to us. We are all ears for you right here on Women Radio 91.7. This is Nigeria's first and only radio station for women and their families, where we are unapologetically for women, and we remain a tool for women development, as well as your most leading and reliable source for information for women. So welcome once again. And just so you know, we're live on our Facebook and YouTube page so that you could also get to match the video with the audio this morning. You get to be a part of the show and also get to be part and parcel of making out better from this country, Nigeria. You get to listen to us via our website if you are concerned that you might not be able to connect to us from the different areas that you are this morning, and that's going to be a challenge. The phone lines are 070 or that's the website actually, www.wfm917.com. If you want to phone in, the phone lines are 07000 917 917 or 9155 917 917. Our toll free number for women, 0800 1235 917. Our text and WhatsApp line, 08155 917 917. And we have 0703 175 6537. So those are the phone lines for you to get to reach us in the course of the program. If you're also a first timer on the newspaper review, would love to celebrate you and thank you for being part of what we do right here on Women Radio 91.7. Would always encourage you to ensure that the comments that you are sharing with us on the newspaper review, as much as you want them to be heard, are devoid of any abusive languages, are devoid of any cynical languages. Please hit the concerns on the head. If we avoid your messages, you should just know that they are not complying. So please, let's do better, especially in the second half of the year. Nigeria is everything that it is, but we're hopeful for the best, and we would not, continue to look at it on from the pessimistic side of life. So let's just try to have a more open mind as we get to dissect the papers together. And I thank you always for doing this with us right here on Women Radio 91.7. Our social media handles WFM917 across all socials. You can get to reach us in the course of the program. It's going to run all the way till 8:25 this morning, and it's time for us to get to delve into the papers, get to know what stories are making the rounds, and connect with them so that they would guide our discussions this morning. All right, I'll start with the Punch newspaper for today, the second day of July 2025. So what are you going to find in the Punch newspaper this morning? All right, from the Punch newspaper, 2027 crossfire. APC strikes back after Mark Lamido slam Tinubu government. That's what you'd find. You also find as well Southwest hit as coal clashes claim 1,680 lives. Nigeria risk decline without new constitution. This is coming from the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Victor Atta, as he warns. Hurricane Tinubu Delta, Akwa Ibom defend APC defections amid fresh attacks. Now let's take a look at the This Day newspaper this morning and check out what you find. You see there a headline: Opposition Coalition formally adopts ADC, unveils party interim ESCO today. DMO 59.7 59.796 trillion naira. Federal government bonds accounted for 80% of 74.887 trillion naira domestic debt in Q1 2025. We also have a headline here. Tinubu, functional capital city is foundation for functioning nation. Over 20 speakers expected as stakeholders brainstorm on gas safety in Abuja. Reps urge federal government to pay 1.1 million euros debt to OACPs. And that's what you find right there on the This Day newspaper for today, the second day of July 2025. All right, just so you know as well, we've got the Daily Trust newspaper. So, what will you find on the headline? This one here says Dantata buried in Saudi Arabia. INEC proposes fresh guidelines for review of election results. That's a headline there. You'd also find ahead ADC's meeting today. Atiku woes PDP leaders to coalition. And equally, coalition using Saraki's name to woe our members. This is according to Kwara PDP. All right, now to the Guardian newspaper this morning. What will you find? Stakeholders meet in Abeokuta to curb sexual gender-based violence. U.S. marks independence anniversary, deepens ties with Nigeria. Trump escalates feud with Musk, threatens Tesla, SpaceX support. Police arrest suspected cultists, others recover pistol, vehicle parts. Social media divided as Nigerian embarks on bicycle trip to US. Now to the Nation newspaper this morning. Atiku, Mark, Tamboa, Secondus, Egbu, others head for ADC. Governors Badaru, Dangote, Otedola, others bid Dantata farewell. And here, federal government to drive investments with Africans for Africa Fund. Experts, Dangote's initiative will stimulate economic growth, reduce inflationary pressures. All right, so that's what you find there on the Nation newspaper. Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper today. A couple of headlines here, and let's review them as well. Well, there's still some old headlines actually from yesterday. Customs Apapa Command generates 1.3 trillion naira, six collaboration. Day 4, motorists lament as Lagos begins 101-day Ogudu Ifako Bridge repairs. In 2026 Commonwealth Games, Tinubu receives King's Baton, unifies Nigerians with sports. So these are the headlines that you find across the various national dailies. Do well to grab a copy of any of your choice newspapers. Get to read extensively for the details as we get to have the discussions together right here on your Women Radio 91.7, Nigeria's first and only radio station for women and their families. Right now, it is 20 minutes to 8, and the conversations are ready for us to chew. The phone lines are open 07000 917 917 or 9155 917 917. Our toll free number for women 0800 1235 917. And we have our text and WhatsApp line 08155 917 917 or 703 175 6537. So, this one here is from the Nation newspaper, and I just want to go through it for your listening pleasure. It reads Atiku, Mark, Tambuwal, Secondus, Ebu, others head for ADC. A major step towards the battle for power in 2027 is likely to be taken today in Abuja. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and some senior People's Democratic Party figures are expected to defect to the African Democratic Congress, which they have embraced as the vehicle for their coalition. Sources said the plan was perfected at a meeting yesterday under the aegis of concerned PDP elders. The meeting took place at the Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, and the ADC will be adopted with like minded politicians in the National Opposition Coalition Group as it was gathered. So this is exactly what you would find on the Nation newspaper. And I really do want to know what your thoughts are on this as well. There is that headline from the Daily Trust newspaper that reads, INEC proposes fresh guidelines for review of election results. Ahead of the 2027 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission has announced plans to release supplementary regulations to guide the review of declarations and returns during elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu disclosed this on Tuesday in Abuja during the second quarterly meeting with resident electoral commissioners, where he also urged them to take full responsibility for their constitutional duties, emphasizing that their role extends beyond the general elections. Yakubu expressed concern over the varying interpretations of Section 65 of the Electoral Act 2022, which grants INEC the authority to review election results already declared under certain circumstances. According to him, the Commission is developing a supplement to the current regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections 2022 to provide clearer direction on the review process. Nigerians, what do you have to say this morning concerning these latest developments? Well, I have joining me this morning our analyst as we get to dissect the papers together, Buki Femi Ajala. Good morning to you, Buki.
Yes, good morning. How are we doing? And newspaper review family, how are we doing as well? I mean, it's the start of a new month. I mean, half year. Well, we're bright. I mean, we look forward to the pleasant surprises that awaits us in this half year. Trusting God anyway, because everything we have to trust God in all that we do.
Hmm.
So once again, I want to say good morning to everyone.
And thank you so much for joining us, and also welcome to our first edition of the newspaper review together for the
Absolutely,
second half
absolutely.
of the year and the month of July. It's always been a pleasure having to do this with you, Buki.
So
All right, so we'll delve into the papers. I know, Buki, I just had to share briefly some of the latest developments. It's expected that some bigwigs will be, moving into the ADC for coalition to see how they can ensure better competition ahead of the 2027 elections. And also, INEC, trying to ensure that they review the process of results checking as well. What do you think of, these latest developments?
well, it's expected. It's expected that we begin to see good things and bad things anyway. Um, why will I say good things and bad things? At the end of the day, we will now know if this move was good or bad. I mean, things like people moving from one party to another party, that is expected because of the way we are even set up. The infrastructure that we have in Nigeria afford that easily, which really should not be. If you're in a party, you're in a party because you believe the values, and the policies of that party. But the way we have structured our own, the way we have actually done the architecture, if I can use that word, allows that you can move from one party to another party and nothing will happen. You understand? Even after you've been elected, I mean, we've seen all kinds of deflection here and there, even after they have been elected and all that. Well, but that's not the discussion for today. But what we are saying is that these things will move. And then, of course, from the angle of opposition party, as we speak today, except if PDP does the rightful things, or the new coalition that they are doing does the rightful things, we don't have a strong opposition party for APC right now. And really, for health reasons, to critique appropriately, there has to be a strong opposition. This is not out of jealousy or out of greed or something, but from the angle of I also care for this country. what you are doing, what this policy is not right. Why don't you look at it that way? Why don't you look at it this way? Why don't you come up with this? We are yet to get to that point in Nigeria. What we see even from the opposition party is that they just pull everything down. They don't even come up with concrete solutions. You understand? They are good in cooling down and then also now selling. No, wait, I won't even say they are even selling themselves really. Because if you really look at it, if you look at even the 16 years or so that PDP did used in Nigeria, what can we hold on to? You understand? So when PDP is talking now that APC is on, oh, they will say APC did this, they did not do this, they did not do that but during their own time, APC also was talking. At least the strong opposition party, even if we did not have APC at that time, was also talking, was also criticizing. Can we get to a point where even the opposition party we have will be strong to critique and also prefer solutions? I
All
look
right.
forward to tough times,
Mm.
but like we said, these are these are times that a whole lot will be happening. So I'm not surprised that PDP is trying to get their acts together. And at the same time, we're also hearing, okay, there's another coalition coming up, and then they're now looking at their chances and things like that. I mean, it's normal. So, but time will tell if this is a good move or it's a bad move. But
Mm.
these things will definitely happen, no doubt about that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Bookie. Let me get to hear from this caller this morning. Hello. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? Oh,
I'm Dixon calling. Okay.
Dixon from Ogba.
Yes,
You're welcome, Dixon. Let's have your thoughts.
yes. This is first time
Oh
contributing
my
to your
goodness,
program.
Dixon, you're welcome. Glad to have you join us.
So, yeah, God bless you all. And finally, I would like to ask you for the little you said, God will bless you.
Mm,
All this is is a grab power. We are not after our own good. I look at Anna Atiku and Idris. I'm telling the big thing to join Atiku. I'm letting how they're going to move forward. Why didn't Atiku that 2023 allow Obi? Now, I think that they are not going to they are not going anywhere.
mm,
But so that if they can get a fast solution, they need to pay to do it. Then you know that they will offer nothing. Somebody after that you can PDP at the year. Now you don't between it to okay, look at even the Labour Party that was no way before Obi entered there. As soon as Obi entered because of liquidity, see what is happening there. Is it ABC that they are going to and they will not between us again. They are not going to do that again. They don't prefer solution. Nigerians are suffering. Anytime this man is not doing right, they should tell him they should know that okay, let's go for them when they go there, they do. But they can't be in Nigeria again. Let's leave this one for what if you all can fear God and follow you there.
mm.
Nigeria is saying that I've enjoyed this mission before and I still enjoy it again. If you
Aw.
all can do that, God bless you.
Thank
God bless
thank you so
Nigeria.
much,
Thank
Dixon.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts this morning, sharing his thoughts about the fact that he feels like these politicians really are not representing the interests of the people. And he hopes that we can have, more God fearing, responsible individuals in positions of power. Well, you too can also be a part of the discourse. The phone lines are open. You want to react to any of the headlines? 070917917 09155 917 917. Our toll free number for women to call in 0800 1235 and 917. And we have our text and WhatsApp line 08155 917 917 0703 175 6537. We have our analyst with us this morning, Olubukola Femi Ajala, and you on the other side of the radio as well. The Like I said, we're currently live on our Facebook and YouTube page as well, so you could get to also watch and follow us across all socials. And yes, let's delve even further to another headline which we're going to dissect together. This is from the Punch newspaper. It reads, South worst hit as cult clashes claim 1,600 lives. South, worst hit as cult clashes claim 1,680 lives. No fewer than 1,686 people were killed in at least 909 incidents of gang violence across Nigeria between January 2020 and March 2025, with the South South and Southwest regions emerging as the most affected zones. According to a report the CBM intelligence released on Tuesday, River State topped the fatality chart with 215 deaths, followed by Lagos, 197 deaths, and Edo, 192 deaths, all strongholds of long standing cult and gang rivalries. The report added that these clashes often involve groups such as Vikings, Icelanders, Black Axe, Greenlanders, IA, and the report indicates that the South South region alone recorded over 750 deaths, largely driven by violent cult rivalries in Rivers, Delta, and Bayelsa. In the Southwest, over 491 fatalities were documented, particularly in Lagos and Ogun, both witnessing recurrent clashes between the Aye and Eye confraternities. The Southeast region, notably Anambra State, also witnessed significant violence, with over 215 deaths attributed to increasing Viking and I cult activity, often linked to broader separatist tensions. The North Central region, particularly Benue State, recorded 204 deaths, with cult clash or cult groups such as scavengers. Yep, pardon, trying to get the details right, with cult groups such as scavengers and chain operating amid ongoing communal clashes. In contrast, the northeast and northwest regions experienced minimal gang related activity, recording fewer than 30 fatalities combined. And this is largely attributed to the dominance of large scale terror groups like Boko Haram and bandits, which overshadow traditional gang operations. Now, Nigerians, you agree with me that this is a cause of concern. Buki, let's dissect this together. Traditionally, cultism was seen as a campus issue. How do you think it evolved into the widespread street and even political menace that we've come to see today?
Well, we just say we have laws and we instill, the punishment, if you go offline, you commit atrocities and things like that. But let's be brutal to ourselves. We don't. At times we look the other way. And that is why we find out that over time, it just didn't start now. Over time, what you what you what you diplomatically look away. You are saying that yes, you allow. That's it. So over time, it has come into this where you even have people from the streets. Two streets are fighting and they are killing themselves, and nothing happened, right? Or each gang, which obviously emanated, either from the primary school or from the secondary school or even from the local communities. They come from different formations, right? But the bottom line is that what did we do to curb it, at, to nip it in the bud, like they say? We did not do anything as far as I'm concerned. Maybe the best we did was, okay, arrest them, and then of course, after some minutes or after some days of spending whatever, you release them, and then you tell them, blah blah blah. And then, I mean, for some, it could even be that, what, there's one big man somewhere who will say, please release my boys. And before you know what is happening, the boys are released. Right. That is how we got to this place. Look at the statistics. For me, what that tells me, if I am in the one of the people to act. Yes, we are acting, and that's why we are talking about it. We are doing our own bits in talking about it, in bringing it, to the attention of those who are supposed to now act. So we are doing our own bits. But what I'm saying is that, for instance, I'm a policymaker, or I'm in the government, or I'm a stakeholder, probably community leader or local government leader, something like that. What should I do with these statistics? It is for someone to act. We know that, okay, based on the statistics, this is even the data that has been gathered officially, right? We're looking at South, we're looking at Southwest, that they form a bigger portion in contributing to the numbers of deaths. And they have been able to trace it to these different formations, Vikings, Aye, and all that. So it's time for someone to begin to, to begin to meet with them. I'm not talking about meeting and paying and giving money or whatever. No, 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 no. We understand, to really understand how they work. I mean, that's why we have this investigative journalism and also the security apparatus, to really understand how they work, right? Who are their babas and who are their kingpins? Who are those big guys that are the ones giving them the instructions? All the formations, they have their hierarchy,
Okay.
and then of course you begin to come up with strategies on making them in the board.
Mm.
Then of course the softer side is, let us also look at why are they even doing this? Yes, we talked about the figures from the north and all that, possibly because we have the bigger boys. What do I mean like that? Boko Haram and all that, terrorism and all that. But I think what I want to see beyond that as well, I want to see what are the other issues that we need to solve. Because if you're trying to solve a problem, right, and you are removing that thing that you think is a problem, you need to give an alternative, a good alternative. What do I mean? These people, if you look at the way they operate and who their characteristics and things like that, most of them do not even have any work. Most of them, probably, if they do have work, maybe they are touts and things like that. Yeah. So if you want to move them out of that, so what reformation system, what information structure do we have for them? Okay, you don't want them to belong to cult, you don't want them to belong to gangs and be fighting, street fighting, community fighting, and all that and all that. Okay, so what do you have for them, so that as you are moving them out, you are plugging them into this? And then what kind of information in terms of mindset are we going to give to them? It can be done. But the most important thing is who and who is doing it. I hope they will not now say, okay, they want to start doing that and use that to siphon money. We are only looking for people who have
Mm.
integrity, who have the love of the country, to say, this, this figure is staggering. What can we do? And they move into action by first understanding, so many things about the formation, their hierarchy, how they operate, who is in charge, and all that. What is the problem? Why do they have this? And then why do they even have clashes? We also have to consult. The local chiefs are there. When you have a community and you have two rivals in a community, of course you cannot just go in there and solve. You need to also find out from the local communities. There is a whole lot of stakeholders engagement and consultations that have to go before you now begin to say, okay, I now understand, and this is what we're going to do. But obviously, something has to be done.
Mm.
These deaths are too many. We're
Yes, they
talking
are.
about Boko Haram, we're talking about terrorism, we're talking about kidnapping, and then something will now come again from cult rivalry and all that.
Mm. When you were talking, I even thought about the fact that if it's not even named in the board to an extent, you get to see that these could be the cult groups that metamorphose into some of the insurgent groups that we've seen rising today, and something has to be done. You touched on the extent to which poverty unemployment, and peer pressure also has contributed to cultism as well. I really do want us to focus on this conversation, and also for Nigerians to lean into this, because you might think to yourself that, oh, it really does not concern me. It really is none of my business. Oh, I have children, they're responsible, they don't do this. Oh, my children will never be cultists. But the stories continue to linger of how these children, even from primary school levels, are indoctrinated into this system, knowingly or unknowingly. And I remember having a friend who said, oh, where she had gone for her service corps and she had to run away from her PPA. Why? Because there were always call clashes. So this is a threat on people's lives. Now, Buki, there have been concerns, allegations, speculations of political patronage and protection for cult groups, especially during elections. What is your take on this?
Absolutely. We might not have the statistics, but we have, we hear stories. I mean, why would somebody be so bold? Somebody will be so bold, to go after the ballot box, pick up the ballot box and go. Why would a certain group of people, you know, come into an election center, shooting here and there, and they carry the boxes and they move into a vehicle and they go. Who has that? Who has that audacity, to do that, right? We hear these stories. We might not be able to pinpoint it. We on the other, we on this side, we hear these stories, and which just shows that yes, even some politicians use them. Where do these thugs, come from? Yes, they might say they are party leader and they are from their parties and things like that, but where? How do they get into it? How do they recruit them? So it shows that some politicians, they have it because they want, they need it, And then, in fact, some of them actually even recruit them for security, for protection, right? I mean, we had talked about it one day, and I mentioned, that I was opportune to be in a place where, not in Nigeria, they were doing elections, and you could see two rivals, on the same street, peacefully talking, you know, I mean, meeting people, and there was no fight. Then I also watched, on the TV because I've forgotten the name of the country now. I also watched on the TV. So I think it was even a Nigerian that actually videoed it. That can you imagine what is happening in my country? That look at these two people. I mean, showed the video that they are contestants. So, for the same post, and look at no talk around, no this, no that. But in Nigeria, you dare not. You will have talks, you will have this, you will have that, and before you know what is happening, fights. So that tells us that these things are orchestrated, they are designed, it's an architecture, which for me we should not even allow, but it has eaten deep into our fabric that you now find out that even the politicians are using them and they are paying them. And you can imagine somebody who has not eating or who does not have a means of survival, right? You understand? And then a politician is coming to say, you know what?
Mm,
I want you to be part of my boys. Just move in and become a party member and be part of my gang. And every day I will be giving you 10,000. And then, of course, feeding. That one, there is no problem. We will feed. You understand? If that person does not have values, right? That person will automatically move in. More so if there had been that kind of tendency from primary school or secondary school or something. Do you know they even have a way of fishing themselves out? They have their way of fishing themselves out. Most of these films that we watch in Hollywood movies and all that, a larger part of the story content are real.
mm.
They will just go and begin to call themselves. They already have names. And that's why I said it has to be nipped in the bud. Do you know that there are some secondary schools that we read? I mean, we talk about it, in our station because anything that has to do with women and children is our matter. Do you know that there are some schools, right, that, hey, even the teachers cannot even control the students because the students belong to one cult or the other.
They're scared of the students.
They're scared. And you can imagine this ones now will move into the university, right? And move into the some of the cults. Yes, we know that. I mean, I think there was a time Mr. Wale Shoyinka, came, I mean, some years ago, that the whole idea of, I think, is there a confrontality or whatever, or CDOS, I can't remember it is, was not, to be killing and to be doing this, to be doing that, was just to advocate for reforms in the universities and things like that. But I know there's still some groups like that they are not into killing and whatever it is. But we also know that we have alternatives, we have variants, in the universities, that if you don't belong to them, they come after you. If you take their girlfriend, they come after you. If you do this, they come after you. These are the people at the end of the day that will also find themselves into politics. You understand? Into politics. I mean, there were, stories underneath here and here that, some past governors or whatever it is, some of them also, I mean, you just hear that this one was a thug when he was in university, this one was a cult member, So the question is it good, is it bad? It's the outcome. What do we see? What do we see? When it becomes an issue where you're now killing, you're now destroying properties, you're now harming, you're not there for reforms. You're not there for reforms, then something is wrong somewhere.
All right. Thank you very much, Buki. I'm going to go to a final part of, expanding on this discussion this morning. And I'm really, focusing on it because it pertains to women and also their families as well, which is what we represent here on Women Radio 91.7. If you've just tuned in, this is 8 minutes after 8 on your Women Radio 91.7. And we want to hear from you. We want your thoughts on this conversation. The headline reads, South has been hit with the worst of its kind, as far as call clashes claims 1,680 lives. I'm taking your calls this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miracle.
Good morning to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Francis calling from Idaho.
You're welcome, Francis.
Yes. I want to thank God for your life. I want to say that all the vessels coming out of you, the Lord of heaven will replace.
Amen.
And all the wisdom you need to carry on your job, God will give to you.
Amen. Thank you.
Grace of God will multiply in your life.
Amen.
Okay, now I want to talk about the INEC proposal.
Okay.
I think she's now little coming in again with his traffic. But I am promising them that God of heaven, this time around, any manipulation, any magomago they are planning, God will disgrace them. God will expose them. God will disappoint them. Then in the area of courtesan, they have people sending them, just like you have said during the election. They have people backing them up, giving them peanuts to risk their lives, mortgaging their lives because of 100,000, 10,000, 5,000. Same promises given to them. But this time around, I know that God, who sees all things, will disappoint all of them. Both their courses, their used to hire, to destroy things, to steal election boxes, to fight people. God will take care of them this time around. Come 2027. That's my suggestion.
All right. Thank you very much, Francis, for calling this morning on the newspaper review. The phone lines are open 07000 917 917 or 9155 917 917. Our toll free number for women to call in 0800 1235 917. And then our text and WhatsApp line 08155 917 917 or 703 175 6537. We have this message here from Mrs. Oboli from Ikorodu says, "Good morning to you and your guests. On your discuss this morning, the menace of cultism in this country can't be overemphasized. Some of our politicians are allegedly the enablers and financiers of these cult groups. Listening to the number of deaths you reeled out on the show, for emphasis, human lives lost to cult related deaths, one can't help but wonder when will all this end? But it won't except we have an intentional government willing to extinguish and eradicate this evil vice. They are being used and kept at bay to be reused during the elections and odd jobs. Who will then bail the cat? Questions begging for answers. We have here as well. This is coming from Prince from Ogwa. Says, "My dear Miracle, there is nothing INEC or INEC, interesting, can do outside electoral reforms and the ordinance or the rule of law. Help me tell Fubara that he has made himself a hollow of political abortion by signing a self-centered agreement that does not carry the people's will. How do we fight ourselves over Dangote and his personal business? Now we build the refinery for him from 60 naira to 150 naira in Jonathan's time, and these set of politicians said it was bad. But now, how far?" All right. Rosenjo Olawale from Alaquera says, "Good morning, dear presenter. Petroleum marketers are doing whatever they like because government has never been serious about sanctioning them, and most of them are stakeholders in political matters as they sponsor the political ambition of most politicians. They are quick to increase the fuel pump price whenever it increases, but delay reducing the price whenever the price rise or price falls. They continue to do this and go scot-free because Nigerians won't stop collecting money from politicians to vote them into leadership positions. Bad followers will never produce good leaders. Nigeria will survive. Allah bless Nigeria." Additional, I will see you in Ikorodu says, "Top of the morning to you in the studio. On the coalition against Tinubu, it's dead on arrival. Few days ago, they presented ADA as their platform, but today they are ADC. As we go on, they won't agree because none of them trust each other. And check their record. Atiku, the former boss, said is most corrupt, and for Peter Obi as the governor, he established brewery for his people and kept state money in his family bank. And for El Rufai as the governor of Kaduna, many people were killed in southern Kaduna and later paid 50 billion to bandits. What if wrote to me, I made you spend 21 years in government and later told Nigerians he's hungry, please. Nigeria, who among them is sent? Nigerians, be wise." Rosenja says, "Well, cultism and hooliganism are on the rise because they are tools in the hands of the politicians. There is no political campaign you go that you won't see dreaded cultists and miscreants acting as guards to politicians. We see all these things but look away because of the money these politicians offer to all and sundry. Once we stop collecting money from politicians, many things will fall in line. Bad followers will never produce good leaders. Nigeria will survive. Allah bless Nigeria." All right, thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. Just as we go further, before we wrap it up, uh, I do want to ask this question. But before I ask that question, just so you know, it is 8:15 on your Women Radio 91.7, and the phone lines are open 07000 917 917 or 9155 917 917. Toll free number for women to call in 0800 1235 917. Text and WhatsApp line 08155 917 917 0703 175 6537. I'm putting this out to, analysts and also to you listening as well. What do you think can be done, you know, from the perspective of community, parents, and schools in early detection and prevention of cultist activities? What do you think can be done in this case from the perspective of communities, of parents, of schools. When we talk about sexual violence, we look at it as something must be done to punish perpetrators. Then we've talked about it over and over and, looking at government implementation of laws. But what we at Women Radio did even further was not just to sit back and wait for them to implement these laws or follow it to the later, but also to go into the different communities and get in touch with custodians of culture to let them know that they also have to work hand in hand if we must make our society a safer place for families, for women, for children. So, Buki, I want your thought in this line as far as tackling cultist activities are concerned.
All right, I would use some of the stories that we talk about in the institute that I belong, Institute for National Transformation. When we talk about the role of the family in nation building, we use a case study of this family Jones. It was a research, it was a study done in the 1914, if I'm right. They found out that a particular family, in that period for over 5 generations, a whole lot of them were incarcerated. So they were charged. They were charged. They were either the ladies were probably harlots, prostitutes. I mean, there was just a nuance, in the family, in the system. And the US calculated that for that 5 generations, the money that they had spent on them was over 1 billion, right? And so they traced that family lineage, because their names, Jones, 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 Jones. So they traced their names to this particular man, and they found out that the man, drug addict, nothing, nothing. He was a liability, and then he himself also was a criminal and all that. Why do we use that? We also now used another family, that they researched around that time as well, over 5 generations, and they found out that this man had values, right? And then he will come in, sit with his children, right? Sit with his children, monitor them, put values in them, pray with them, the Christians, right? I mean, well, let me use the fact that they were religious, but of course their faith was Christianity, right? And then of course, before you know what was happening, they also traced their generation, 5 generations, and they found out that most of the people that came from that family were what? We had the vice president from the United States, a whole lot of them were attorney, teachers, senators, and things like that. Bottom line was that they were adding value, to the society. And if you come down to Nigeria, just because we do not have statistics, but try look at, downward that, the families do not have values. And when I talk about values, we're talking about family values and national values. That look, in our own family, we don't steal, we don't lie, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that. It starts from the family. And it's not just about we talking about it, but they also saying that you model it. And I remember when I was in secondary school. Yes, I think I was in form 1 or form 2 or form 3. Mistakenly, I brought a friend's wristwatch home. Then it was a fashion. I mean, for some of us in our age, they will remember it was brown plastic like this is what they use for the leather. You understand? It was fashionable for young people. Mistakenly, I bought it from my friend, and mistakenly, I forgot it to give it to her. I said that let me also do a shakwa and all that. When my mom saw it, if not that it was past school, hey, we will have gone back to school. But my mama beat me that day that never collect something that is not yours. It's ojukokoro, is that, is that. You understand? But those values, do we still have it here? So right now, even if I collect something, that thing is still in my brain that no, I mean I value. And I remember my father will always say that, hey, You understand? Because that's where we came from. That we don't people like that don't go to prison. Oh. You understand? So it's always ingrained, and it starts from the family. Because if you miss it from the family, the next place you should actually get is education, either the non-formal or formal. Formal schools and things like that, non-formal, if you go for a trade or you go and learn a trade or whatever it is. And then if you miss it there, you understand, if you miss it there, then of course the religious setting, the religious setting, it's supposed to bring out the morals, either in whichever faith you are, right? And if somehow you miss it there, then the society, you understand? Then we can now go to the government, to say, okay, you missed it here, you missed it here, you missed it here, and meanwhile you still went to steal, you still went to do this. Then, but can we do the needful? Can we begin to look at family values? Honestly, that is the foundation. That is the foundation. Parents should model it. So it should start from them, right? Because if you're a thief, you will tell your child also to go and steal. Even if you don't tell, your child knows that, oh, my dad is a cheat, my dad is a thug, my dad is the steals. That was a joke, but to be honest, I mean, it's a serious joke. They asked one of the children what he wants to be. He said, oh, I want to become a politician. I said, why do you want to become a politician? Oh, because they steal money. Can you imagine? So obviously that boy has seen that, hey, this is what they do. But really, in the context, politicians today steal money. In the real context, they go in there policies. But look at it. So it really starts from the family.
All
How
right.
I we all can go back, and begin to reform our families and instill family values in them and national values
Mm,
in them at
mm,
that age.
mm. I love the way you landed, instilling family values and national values. Very important. Thank you very much, Buki Femi Ajala. I've got some more messages that have come in here. This is El Kennedy Victor for Social Change Advocate says, "Good morning, WFM. There is not much to do even in the government. People, the lecturers, the police are members of cults. I also call the FCC to investigate Peter Obi for building brewery and saving the state money in his family bank. This is how a black man's mind works, so distracted and given to non-issues." We also have here, this is coming from additional. It says on the cult and criminality in Nigeria with politicians, criminality is paid, because if you see the kind of life these criminals are enjoying in Nigeria, in fact, many people wish to become criminals because the criminals enjoy more juicy lives in Nigeria than the people who are law abiding, and it's quite unfortunate. All right, thank you very much for your message. And here also we have from Rosenje says, Obi begging for one-term president shows how desperate he is and how Nigeria's politicians are birds of the same feather. It's obvious he will be more corrupt than the government he is condemning. Someone that is indicted in Pandora paper and could not defend it, believed to be the Messiah. Many have come and gone. Nothing changed. Nigerians need to stop voting people who have been in corridors of power from 1960 till date, as they have nothing to offer than deceit, poverty, and hunger. Maybe it is time to start voting successful businessmen whose businesses are devoid of cutting corner and staff maltreatment. Bad followers will never produce good leaders. Nigeria will survive. Allah bless Nigeria. All right, thank you very much for your messages here. Well, as we wrap up, cultism is not just a gang problem. It's a national emergency threatening the future of our youth and the peace of our communities, and we cannot afford to be silent or passive. To the government, they need to strengthen the laws, prosecute offenders without bias, and invest in community-based prevention programs. To community leaders, speak up, educate, and be visible in your opposition to these deadly groups. And to parents and teachers, please watch listen and guide. Your purpose or your presence could be the reason a child chooses purpose over violence. And to our young people as well, there is power in your potential. So don't trade it for a lie wrapped in brotherhood. You were made for more. Let's say no to cultism and yes to life. Thank you so much, Buki Femi Ajala, for being a part of the program today.
Thank you for having me. Let's
And
have a beautiful day.
And you too. And to you, our wonderful newspaper review family members, thank you for joining on the program. We'll be back tomorrow. Coming up next is MK and Omolola No Cap. Remember to always do the right thing. I am Miracle Phillip. Good morning.
There is something